Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. I hope everyone is doing fantastic as always. It is summer. Summer has officially arrived. Everything's just better in the summer, do you know what I mean? Especially since we hit 1,000 subscribers this past month, a milestone that I've been wanting to hit. So I'm incredibly grateful to every single one of you guys who has at some point tuned into any content on this channel. It means a lot. And of course, we are going to keep going. But speaking of the 1,000 subscribers, I do have a 1,000 subscriber Q&A planned. So stay tuned for some posts. I'm going to be, inviting you guys to ask questions about anything really. And that should definitely be a super fun video for me to shoot within the next week or so, I would say. But of course, in this video, guys, we are going to be talking about everything that I watched in the month of June. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as you guys can see, 21 new entries in the month of June. I would say I was doing more or less one new entry a day for the first half of this month, and then the second half of this month came around. And if some of you might know this, but I'm a huge tennis fan, and here in London in the UK, Wimbledon is currently on, so that was sort of where my attention was diverted during the second half of this month. But nevertheless, on the 2nd of June, I rewatched Top Gun Maverick. This is of course one of my favorite films of this year, definitely my favorite movie-going experience this year. I saw this again in IMAX, and I think that is sort of the best way you can experience this film. I absolutely love pretty much everything about Top Gun Maverick. I think it is a far superior sequel to the first. From a filmmaking perspective, it's incredible. It's one of the best action films in recent years, I would say. So yeah, Top Gun Maverick, 4.5 out of 5 stars. On the 3rd, I finally watched The King of Staten Island. This was great. This was a really wholesome, funny film directed by Judd Apatow and starring Pete Davidson. Yeah, really not much to say about The King of Staten Island. 3.5 out of 5 stars. On the 5th, I rewatched for I think a third time Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is probably the film of the year. It's a straight up masterpiece if you ask me. If you haven't seen it, just do yourself a favor and go and watch this film. On the 6th, I watched for the first time Brian De Palma's Carrie in 1976. And of course, this is one of the most iconic horror films ever made. I absolutely loved it. 4 out of 5 stars for me. It was interesting actually because if you guys have seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, you'll know how sort of horror-esque that is because of course Sam Raimi directed it, and the whole sequence with Scarlet Witch and the Illuminati, where there's blood on her face, on her clothes and everything, that is of course paying a direct homage to Carrie. So I was very much feeling to finally check out this horror classic for the first time, and it did not disappoint. Anyways, on the 7th, I watched, or I should say rewatched for maybe the 1,000th time in my life, Jurassic Park. If you guys don't know this about me, Jurassic Park is pretty much my favorite film of all time. It is the film that got me into films. It's a straight up masterpiece, nothing more to say on that. On the 8th, I rewatched The Lost World, and I think The Lost World is such a underrated and misunderstood sequel. I think it's really good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy The Lost World. It is so different to Jurassic Park, the original. It's not really trying to be the original, which I respect. It has the balls to sort of do its own thing, which is great, because a lot of sequels just try and sort of rip off the original, but this one actually tries to take a new direction. And of course, it's got Jeff Goldblum, it's got Julianne Moore, it's got Vince Vaughn in it. So quite a fun cast, and yeah, I really love The Lost World. I won't lie to you guys. On the 9th, I rewatched Jurassic Park 3. Let's be honest, this is where the series really started to go downhill, but I still have a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed watching this one as a kid. Especially the fight between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus. That was always a highlight for me. Yeah, it's really fun. There's a lot of dino action in there, but the story I think is lacking quite a bit, which is why it's only a 3 out of 5 stars for me. On the 9th, later that night, I rewatched Jurassic World. I think Jurassic World is fun. I think it's fine. I think it's the 3rd best in the franchise. The new cast is great. Yeah. I don't really have much to say on Jurassic World other than it's a really fun legacy sequel, I would say. On the 10th, I rewatched Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is still for me the worst in the entire franchise. 2.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, this is almost everything I don't want a Jurassic Park film to be. But of course, I've been watching all these Jurassic Park films in the lead up to Jurassic World Dominion, which was a huge disappointment. I found this film to be so boring, instead of focusing on the dinosaurs, it focused on this swarm of mutated locusts, which I thought was really underwhelming. It does bring back, of course, some of my childhood heroes, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, for this this Legacy sequel. And although their presence in the film really did put a smile on my face, the story and the overall premise of this film was really a letdown. And yeah, if you guys want my thoughts on it, I did do a one minute review, which I have available on the channel. But of course, I recently joined TikTok this month, so if you do use TikTok, be sure to follow me. I will leave all the links down in the description box below. You can check out my thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion over there, or like I said, here on the channel. On the 11th, I watched Escape Room, the Tournament of Champions. This is the sequel to Escape Room, which I think I watched for the first time last year. The games in this film are fun to see, like these characters sort of die in these really gruesome and innovative ways, I would say. I promise I'm not a psychopath, it's just from an entertainment perspective, believe me. But I just have zero interest in this story, zero. I'm just watching things happen, and I'm really not paying much attention. That's why this only gets a 2 out of 5 stars for me. I've got zero interest. If you ask me what the plot of this film is, I really couldn't tell you anything other than these people sort of die in these really gruesome ways. On the 14th, I rewatched Ex Machina, directed by, of course, Alex Garland. This is one of my favorite sci-fi films of the past decade, I would say. It is such a philosophically rich film, with some really great performances, particularly from Oscar Isaac, who of course is just, he's a superstar at this point. If you haven't seen Ex Machina, I would highly recommend checking it out. It is such a interesting and deep film, with some really beautiful cinematography and production design. Yeah, I really love this film a lot, and highly recommend it. On the 15th, I watched Men. This is, of course, again, directed by Alex Garland, and this was quite an experience. The first 2/3 of this film is, I think, a quite well done, slow building horror. But the last act, the final 20 or 30 minutes of this film, has to be one of the craziest things I have ever watched in a film before. This film is hugely metaphorical, and I do really like metaphorical films, but what you guys are about to witness, if you do decide to check this film out, what you guys are about to witness in the last 20 or 30 minutes of this film is some of the most fucked up images I've ever seen put to film. I'll just leave it at that. On the 17th, I watched Spiderhead. This is Joseph Kosinski's new film, which premiered on Netflix, starring Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller. This is another film that I reviewed in short, on 1 minute, that you can find here available on the channel or on my TikTok or Instagram Reels. I thought this was fine. I like Joseph Kosinski a lot. He's one of my favorite directors working today. He, of course, did Top Gun Maverick. This is no Top Gun Maverick. This is much more of a condensed script and story, and the performances are good. Chris Hemsworth is really entertaining to watch, but this is, I mean, within the first 5 minutes of this film I could tell you the ending. Like, that's what this film is. It's really well done, really well shot, really well directed. The music is really great, it's very well edited, but like I said, it's quite predictable. And that is part of the reason why it only gets a 3 out of 5 stars for me. On the 18th, I watched Lightyear. This is Disney Pixar's latest film. This film was fun. The visuals are gorgeous. I think Chris Evans did a really good job voicing Buzz Lightyear, but I don't think it has anything on the Toy Story films. Those films are just... It was going to be difficult to even compete with them, but yeah, I don't think this film touches them at all, but it is a really fun watch, a really fun action adventure flick. And yeah, later on that night, on the 18th, I watched The Black Phone, which is a film I really enjoyed. It's directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Sinister and the first Doctor Strange film, and it stars Ethan Hawke, who plays this really chilling child abductor, which sounds fun, doesn't it? It sounds great, but seriously guys, this film was, I thought it was really well done. I think Scott Derrickson did a really good job from a directing standpoint. The kids in this film deliver really great performances. Like, I was really impressed with them. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it really brings anything that new to the horror genre, but what it is just very well done. There was a jump scare in this film, and believe me guys, I'm really good at telling when jump scares are gonna come, but this jump scare, I almost flew out of my seat for this one. So that was really something. So yeah, like Lightyear, another new release this month. Check out The Black Phone if you are into horrors. I definitely recommend it. And let me know what you thought. On the 20th, I watched Cha Cha Real Smooth, which is Cooper Raiff, who is a up and coming writer-director. And this film stars him and Dakota Johnson, and this was just such a good watch, man. This was really wholesome, incredibly relatable. It's a small indie drama with comedy as well, and I found myself laughing. I found myself almost crying at some points. One of my favorites of the year for sure. 4 out of 5 stars for me. And then I followed it up on the 22nd by watching Shithouse. This was Cooper Raiff's directorial debut, the film he did before Cha Cha Real Smooth. And I liked this even better than Cha Cha Real Smooth, I have to say, guys. These two films, and just Cooper Raiff as a filmmaker, he has to be one of the most relatable directors working today, at least for me personally. I feel like his films almost run parallel with the events in my life. For example, Shithouse, in 2020 this came out. I was also at uni in 2020, and this film follows a character in college, and a lot of the sort of situations he finds himself in, you can relate to this stuff so much, and that is exactly what I find myself doing. I cannot wait to see what Cooper Raiff does next. I will be there on opening day in the cinema to check it out. I absolutely love his work after these two films alone. On the 22nd, later on that day, was the season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which of course I've been tuning into every single week for the past month. I was disappointed with the show overall. I do want to talk more about this series in detail, but from a Star Wars fan's perspective, from my perspective, I thought this show was really disappointing. I wouldn't say really disappointing. It was disappointing overall. I thought they could have done so much more with regards to building the emotional arc of Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and I felt like this show should have been more focused on the relationship between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, but they only really do that for the last 2 episodes, I'd say, which were good, but I wanted to feel so much more for this show. I really wanted to be crying with this show, and I wasn't. Although a lot of the sort of action sequences I thought were pretty satisfying from a fan service perspective, it didn't really save what was left of this show. I thought the story was quite weak. And if they do decide to do a season 2, of course, as a Star Wars fan, as a fan of Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, I will be watching, of course, but I really hope that they sort of step it up with regards to quality, because yeah, like I said, guys, I was a bit disappointed with Obi-Wan overall, I would say. But on the 24th, I watched Watcher, which is a new horror thriller starring Maika Monroe. Maika Monroe, by the way, guys, if you don't know who Maika Monroe is, she's the girl from It Follows, another really, one of my favorite horror films maybe ever, and she stars in Watcher, and it's about a woman who moves with her husband to Romania, and she's, of course, already we have this sort of fish out of water premise. She doesn't really understand the language. She doesn't really know what to do. She finds herself a lot of the time alone. One night she sees another guy staring from the apartment building across the street, just staring at her and watching her, and she feels like this person is now following her and could be linked to these recent murders that have been happening in the area. Yeah, I thought this was a really well done horror thriller. A lot of the shots and a lot of the way this film is framed is exactly what I wish more modern horror films made use of more. The shots where you can't really tell whether or not something or someone is lurking in the background really makes for an incredibly intense atmosphere, which is exactly what this film provided. The reason it only gets a 3 out of 5 stars for me is because we've kind of seen this film before. Even though this is a really well done film, I did feel like I knew what was going to happen at the end. And not to say the ending is bad, because if I'm being completely honest, guys, this was one of the most satisfying endings of this year for me. But yeah, overall, I would say check it out if you like really slow building horror. And once again, let me know what you thought. On the 27th of June, the last entry that I made this month, I watched Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, another film that I reviewed on TikTok and YouTube Shorts for you guys to check out. Austin Butler, I felt like he is definitely the best aspect of this film by a mile for me. I enjoyed most the moments where Elvis was on stage performing. I thought those, I think Baz Luhrmann's direction lends really well to those moments, but this film, it felt really, really long, guys, and I don't know if that was because I became exhausted with Baz Luhrmann's over-the-top style, his montage style, his editing. It all felt sort of glued together. There wasn't really a sort of structure that I could follow and pace myself towards. It just felt like one big blob, if that makes sense. But I think Austin Butler was this film's saving grace, and it's really important, of course, when you're doing a biopic to have your lead performer as someone who absolutely nails the role, and Austin Butler definitely does this. He's come a long way since Aliens in the Attic, let's just say that. So guys, that is it. That is everything that I watched in the month of June. Let me know your thoughts on some of those entries if you did manage to check any of them out. I would love to chat with you down below in the comments section. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you are new. Guys, we are going to do that 1,000 subscriber Q&A very soon, so stay tuned for some posts inviting some questions very, very soon. But for now, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, of course, as always, and I will catch you very soon in the next.